Hi everyone, welcome to John and Tris Chats.
Talking movement and everything around our business performance essentials.
I'm the stupid one, Tris is the clever one, and we're just going to get down to it.
Subscribe and follow. I had a few messages from a post I did the other day, and I thought that might be a good topic about kind of hip shifts and hip hikes.
Okay, let's start with that. Did we talk about that the other day?
Yeah, so I did a post the other day talking about kind of the assessment and why a hip hike happens and the movement deficits you normally see with it. So just to explain, a hip hike is, you might see it with one hip higher than the other, but classically it normally happens in the right because we have more weight on our right hand side with all our organs and such, when we tend to spend more time on our right side. And I think, like, first and foremost, it is a sign that your limb that the hip hike is on has an inability to internally rotate that side of its system.
What does it look like?
Hip hike?
Yeah.
So just literally one hip higher than the other, and normally they will spend a large amount of time on the side that is hiked.
If you go and see a physio, are they going to be like, they'll probably think leg discrepancy? Does it sometimes manifest in other things?
And those physios would be wrong.
Exactly.
Everybody's got a small leg deficiency,
okay.
But exactly that thing. So if you stand, they might stand like this, and one side looks a lot higher. It's got nothing to do with leg length. It's got everything to do with pelvic position and where their centre of mass is. So you will probably look then, if you looked at a rib cage, then it will be coming over to the side that is hiked.
So what's causing that?
Yeah, 100%. Well, so I guess it's, what came first, the chicken or the mouse with it, really.
Chicken or the mouse?
Chicken or the mouse. What's it called?
Chicken or the egg?
I'm a Weetabix today, man.
That's good.
So, yeah, system definitely can't internally rotate on that side. So there are a few reasons for this. So absolutely, if we think the hip that can't internally rotate, the hip hike is essentially a compensation. It's hiking up to create more room for the hip to internally rotate in.
Yeah.
So at normal height, the pelvis doesn't have any room to internally rotate in. So first and foremost, that's we go one step back from what happened prior, is that this hip can't internally rotate. It's moving up, create more space to internally rotate into.
And it will stay to accommodate that movement.
Exactly that, yeah.
So that's just a learned behaviour. Okay.
Your body reorganising itself to, you need internal rotation in your system. You cannot absorb or produce force without internal rotation, and your body's going to get it any way it can. Ideally, it's the most efficient way, but it still needs to get internal rotation somehow. And so when you're lacking a true hip IR, it's the pelvis is kind of compensating position to create more room to internally rotate into.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think common reasons that you don't have hip IR can be looking downstream on that side. So if you can't pronate your foot, you can't internally rotate your system down towards your foot, then you're not going to be able to create space to internally rotate into. Again, when we think about hip hikes on the right side, you need access to your pelvis and your centre of mass to get across to your left side. So that can also be a reason why you're chucking up on this side to create more room, because you can't move the pelvis all the way over to the other side.
Would you have a lot of hip internal rotation on assessment because your body is organised around that to get more, but you'll find internal rotation elsewhere is limited?
A question, no, I think you'd probably still have quite poor, you're talking like table tests.
Yeah.
I think you would probably still have really poor internal rotation, because although your pelvis is shifting up to try and get some more internal rotation, it's not the most efficient way of gaining. If you need arbitrary figures, 10 units of hip internal rotation, giving a hip hike might give you 2 of that, so we'll give you a little bit more, but it's not an efficient way of gaining internal rotation.
That makes sense.
Really, the answer is in the assessment. Find what's not doing its job and what the pelvis is trying to accommodate for. So I think the two most common things are that lower down on the side you are hiking doesn't internally rotate, so definitely look at kind of foot position. Can you get into mid stance? Can you get into the inside of your foot and pronate? But also, can you get off that side? So if you're spending loads of time with your centre of mass on that right side, can you get into your into left mid stance, can you get your pelvis away from the side it's hiking into?
Yeah.
And then, so again, if we think about that, when we're trying to get off one side, we've got the synergist in that kind of frontal plane of your glutes on the side you're trying to get away from, kind of pushing you over. And then you've got your adductor, so your groin pulling you over to that side. So if you thought that you really just spend all your time on your right leg and you really struggle to get to like a legal left mid stance, then that's absolutely your focus of kind of rehab is a glute that pushes you over to that left side, but quite often it's left adductor, left internal oblique that keeps you on that side.
And so will you be able to see it in standing, not just a running gait, you'll be able to see it?
It depends how severe it is and kind of how passive you are, but a lot of people, it's hard with standing observations. You can see things and it can give you information about how someone kind of manages gravity and kind of internal pressures, but it's a real low intensity. So just because you can't see it in standing, it doesn't mean as we ramp up the intensity and we start running it's not happening. But I would say if it's happening in standing, there's very, very good chance it's happening in things higher intensity, but not necessarily vice versa. So
if you're assessing somebody for the first time, are you determining that based on the symptoms that are you determining that based on the symptoms they're giving you, or are you going to assess them running first and then assume that you want to address that? You sort of mean, is it symptom led, or is it led by?
Symptoms always. So I guess this is the thing, right? Symptoms are the clue at what's being overloaded. Normally the area that's being overloaded isn't the thing that's not overly moving well. Again, it's been moving away from kind of a reductionist kind of thought process as my knee hurts, let's just really hammer home on like knee and quad exercises. It's about thinking, okay, why is that area overloaded? Looking above and below, looking across the other side. They're both crucial aspects of assessment, and also for the client sitting in front of you. I think if listen to their pain and where they're getting pain, and you're like, oh yeah, you got right hip pain. I'm just going to look at your left foot and nothing else. They don't feel heard, and like to get results for clients, they do need to feel heard, and you need to address what's important in their big questions. Always, like when you look at a client, you're looking at movement. There's always going to be something that you want to chase, like whether it be a movement deficit or whatever, and it's always about lowest hanging fruits. And I think that's particularly important when people are in pain, like less so when it's performance, because normally people are a lot more kind of patient and you've got time and you can work on like dual goals. So you can work on, say, right foot mid-stance pronation, and you can also work on lateralising your pelvis over to the left, and you can set up exercise to try and guide that. But when people are in pain, it's not okay, what now is the lowest hanging fruit? What's going to give them the quickest kind of sign of like, we can change things here? Because if you take 2 months to change one thing or give them a different sensation that feels new, it feels good, then they're not going to be your client for very long.
I think one thing that we spoke about last week as well was you have to trust the process. So this isn't just about a one-time fix or a one appointment fix or a one exercise fix. Bulletproof the shoulders, we were saying before.
Proper ATG setup.
It's trust the process and you'll get there.
100%. We are a generation that wants things now, and I think most of the time why people don't get better in rehab, some of the time it's because of poor rehab and poor guidance, but a lot of the time is like we're too fickle, right? We do something for 2 weeks, it's not working, like move on. Human bodies take time to adapt. We can definitely get quick wins with like adapting, manipulating the nervous system and get some more access to range of movement, but I think to see real long-lasting kind of cleaning up areas or taking pain away, that stands the test of time and intensity. Going back to running, whatever that kind of activity they want to do, 100%. Trust the process. And so, final thoughts on hip hike. It's there. I think let's not demonise it too much. Everybody's going to have a side that they do spend a little bit more time on, and you probably will see a slightly higher hip. If you do kind of get hip pain or pain down that limb and you've got no internal rotation, I think it's definitely something to be thinking about. The two lowest hanging fruits are normally, can we get our pelvis over to the other side, and can our system internally rotate down on the leg that you're seeing the hip hike. And
so you probably have a number of exercises to address this, right?
I think the key is just thinking about the system as a whole, like doing isolated adductor exercises on one side. You're probably not going to get a lot of carryover. Get the pelvis in the position that you want it, put you in an isometric position that is going to increase your muscle activity and get it to work really, really hard to keep the pelvis in that position. Just a quick one then to what you would normally see if you get a right hip higher, you'll normally see the right shoulder lower. So we get compression basically on one side, and we get kind of length through the other side. And that is essentially what's going on there is
kick.
Where we've got a right side pelvis that's higher, we're getting a lot less internal oblique on our left side because we've got it's got a lot further to kind of travel before it kind of comes onto your pelvis. And then we see this big kind of, we tend to see a lot more flare of the rib cage on the left, and we tend to see a lot more kind of compression on the right side because of that.
If you see someone with a lower shoulder, would you assume and think, that could actually be related to the hip?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And again, I just want to emphasise, don't demonise these positions. Everyone's going to have a shoulder slightly lower, but it's not a problem until it becomes a problem, right?
Yeah.
And you will always see those kind of patterns across the hip. So if you have limited internal rotation in your right hip, as I say, those patterns across your body, if you have limited internal rotation in your right hip, I can almost guarantee your left shoulder is going to have limited internal rotation.
Yeah. That's a really good point though, about not demonising the position that you're already in.
Yeah.
So whilst you might look at the shoulder from a hip height perspective, and if that's their issue, you'd look at the shoulder, but you might not address the shoulder, you just look at the rib cage to try and address it all, I guess.
Absolutely. Address the pelvis and rib cage, you change shoulder and hips.
Yeah. But you can't neglect the importance of the rib cage, right? How do you get people to buy into the fact that is associated with a hip hike or hip pain?
Show them. I think that's the beauty of social media, and I think the beauty of it is your catalogue is there on your page.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really feel like with Performance Essentials we had to do a lot of kind of selling ourselves, because I feel like your page does the sales, where I feel like sometimes when you see people in a private practice, they come in and you spend half your session being like, this is my process, this is why I'm not doing that, and before you know it, you've got 20 minutes left and you've just wasted all that time.
And we want you to come back.
Yeah, exactly. And now all I want you to do is something in 10 sessions. Yeah, I think that's the beauty of social media. People know what you're about. Hopefully they've seen some kind of evidence with clients that you've had or good feedback.
Testimonials and things.
Yeah, exactly that. And people know what you're about, and I don't find a lot of the time you have to do much convincing, but if they do need convincing, then trust the process, give it some time, see the results, and absolutely, if you're not getting results with someone, if that be us or anybody, after X amount of time that you think is sensible, then probably do go elsewhere. But
I think that's the strength in Performance Essentials though. I think if you've got to a point with your therapist or your physio where you're hitting a real wall, I think that's where we step in. It's a really nice segue to where we're trying to attract people to then treat.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point as well, is that most of the people that come to us have tried conventional ways. They've tried 101 different rotated cuff exercises for their shoulder, tried every kind of stretch under the sun, and they've hit a brick wall. They haven't got anywhere. I don't actually think we see many people that are fresh off the bat, kind of like rolled my ankle or anything yesterday. It is normally the people that have tried maybe quote unquote conventional measures and are looking maybe for a more holistic whole body approach at looking how you move and how one thing affects the other. And I think those are the people that really engage in our content, and the clients we see a lot more.
This chat is not like
this is going to be more educational.
It's not an exhaustive list of everything associated with it.
No, I think in summary with hip hike is know that it's a sign that you are lacking internal rotation on that side. I think it's acknowledge that you are probably spending a lot more time with your centre of mass over that side, And so tackling those two things, trying to get your body onto the other side a lot more through kind of thinking about pelvic, a thorax, everything kind of position, and looking at how you can make your system on that side internally rotate from the floor up a lot better. I thought maybe we could end with a joke.
Yeah. You got one?
Yeah.
Is it about a chicken and a mouse?
It's not about a chicken or a mouse. One tortoise said to the other, he said, do you find that when it rains, water gets in your mouth? And the other tortoise turns around and goes, wow. When he gets to 200 subscribers, we're calling it Owning Mid-Stance.
No, we're not. What else do you want me to say?
That's good.